Hello there. It's been a while since my last podcast, hasn't it? Rather than share all of the details of all that I've been doing since the last one, instead, I want to let you in on what comes next. I've published 2 books that roughly outline my life philosophy around relationships and my blueprint for a female-led society. If you have not yet read them, they're called 150 Years of Gynarchy and The Pillars of Gynarchy. If you like my work here, you will definitely get something from my books. However, right now I'm going to take you with me on a little trip, a mental trip to a place specially designed for dominant women and submissive men. Are you ready? Let's dive in.
She is Viola Valkyrie, and you're listening to Obedient Love, where men learn their place, and she makes the rules obedient love.
What if there was a place where women could come to feel 100% safe while being catered to in every way possible by the men who live there? What if their stay cost them nothing and could act as a periodic getaway, a portal to a world that exists outside of patriarchy, where they are in full control? And what if the dozen or so men who live in this place were treated to a rotating cast of dominant ladies? Some of them experienced firm disciplinarians, and others just learning what it's like to be respected and obeyed, just beginning to understand their real power. The women could relax, network, and learn from one another. The men could live out their dream of sacrificing everything to serve commanding women. The women could bring other submissive men to the place if they so choose, so that they could also experience what a gynarchic society would feel like. How would it be different from the outside world? A place where men obediently follow commands and women simply feel free to be themselves and enjoy themselves without any expectations. What could their submissive men learn from the residents of this hive and their queen? The men would be loyal devotees of the goddess, having dedicated their lives to serving women in whatever way is needed. They would find pleasure in being useful and being used well to benefit their entire community and its guests. It would be a place tucked out of the way in the woods, peaceful, but also luxurious. There would be delicious, fresh food served twice a day, and women could have massages and pedicures on demand. There would be a sauna and a cold dip pool to invigorate the body. There would be meditation in the temple and movies in the theater, and a little shop with all sorts of things to delight the senses. Luxury cabins would dot the property, and guests could even switch off the grid entirely and just be. Or switch back onto the grid and create or work online. Women artists could take up temporary residencies and leave behind work for the community to enjoy. Writers could allow themselves to get carried away with writing until the wee hours of the morning, and then take in the fresh morning air with a walk through the secure wooded property. They might stop at the orchard and pick fresh fruit, or wander into the greenhouse and sample the herbs and vegetables. Imagine, as a submissive man, catering to the most relaxed, happy women you could ever encounter, who are allowed to leave their concerns behind and ask for whatever their hearts desire. If they want to be left alone, they will be left alone. If they want a companion to sit with them or walk with them and talk, someone would be there to have an in-depth conversation on any topic of their choice. If their feet are tired, there would be a man there to rub them like an expert reflexologist. If they need a body to snuggle, they would have many happy snugglers to choose from. If they needed a sexual release, there would be men there, certified, clean, and skilled at bringing them to orgasm with no effort on their part. If they needed to run naked and wild, to scream out their frustrations and anger, or to cry in mourning, they could do so and have a loving community there to embrace them and hold space for them with no issues. Imagine the healing that could happen if women could be in the presence of masculinity without ever feeling threatened or judged. If masculinity was there to take its natural place at their feet, soothing them and supporting their desires and needs. Can you imagine what good this kind of place could do for both the women who pass through and the men who get to be the living, breathing proof that men can love and respect women with all their hearts? Submissive men have the capacity to heal women. Sometimes just by being there and being good to women. Sometimes by laying themselves out in front of us to take on a woman's rage and help her cleanse it from her body and spirit through specific rituals and rites of reparation on behalf of all mankind. Masochistic men could take on this sacred role. Imagine celebrations, events, and parties catering to the wild imaginings of the women there. Perhaps a creative costume ball, a picnic, a mad tea party, or a primal hunt. Perhaps elaborate role plays could be arranged to suit the fantasies of the guests, where they are the author of new stories and games being played out in real time. Imagine beautiful, elaborate holidays dedicated to Devi or to a particular goddess, or birthday celebrations that treat women guests as the living goddess. Can you imagine such a place? A holy place. A haven of escape from patriarchy for women who need to feel their innate power return to them in full force. This place would be centered around a queen who reaches out in connection to find the women who would be served best by her hive. It would be unlike any other place in the world. Women would whisper about it to one another with delight and intrigue. There's a place like that? Others would ask. Oh yes, there is a place like that, the women would reply, their eyes sparkling with secret wisdom. But then imagine some of the women who pass through, perhaps returning again and again, finally feel the pull to repeat the experiment in a new place, to create their own hive with their own group of well-trained submissive men. Submissive men who have been waiting for the opportunity to live in service would begin to line up. And the women would learn from the original hive's queen how a new place like hers could be built. They then resolved themselves to become the new queens in a different spot on the planet. Imagine that happens over and over until there is no region in the world without a place to experience gynarchy, all of them part of an interconnected network, just a drive or a short plane ride away from having a taste of what it's like when women rule their world. What kind of effect would this have on the planet? How would it change the tone of how women move through society? Would they become bolder? Would they begin to understand their connection to other women and their dominion over men? What could they teach each other in these spaces where the relationship with men begins to heal and take on new shapes? I believe that this dream is one that must become a reality, and it must begin to happen soon. We are in the midst of what I call the pivot, where women are no longer controlled by men and finally begin to take the reins and steer this planet in a better direction. I'll talk a bit more about that in my next podcast. To begin the process of realizing this vision, I will need 12 men to come forward to build this first hive with me. They will need to join me in solving several challenges. I have already chosen 2 possible properties for the first hive. Both are available right now. One is a reasonable dream of a secluded manor on 127 acres of wooded land. The other is an unreasonable fantasy of nearly 4,000 acres, an estate large enough to create an entirely separate town. The unreasonable dream could still be made a reality with enough effort and resources. It will depend on who wants to become a part of this plan. Either way, I'm committed to making this happen. The men I choose cannot be just any men. They need to be reliable, obedient, competent, and have the ability to gather resources and funds, either from their own portfolio or through hard, consistent, persistent work on my businesses. No work will be below them. They also must feel my personal philosophy and the Devi doctrine is aligned with their core beliefs. They must feel deep down that the overall mission of the hive is something that they are truly passionate about. That passion must drive them to overcome any obstacles, hand in hand with me, as we move forward to create a place like no other. I need to feel your willingness to work with me and achieve this first goal that will set the stage for other women to follow. For the right men who feel the spark of this dream alight within them, it can be the purpose that drives your life forward and gives it new meaning. This will not be a femdom porn playground. Know that you would be catering to the desires and fantasies of women, and that may not always look like what you yourself have fantasized about when you think of living as a woman servant. The idea of that should delight you. If it doesn't, and you find yourself thinking, well, what's in it for me? Will my fantasies also be fulfilled? All I can say is that your heart and your mind are in the wrong place. Though it is possible things will happen that are beyond your wildest fantasies, if you go in with expectations, you likely will not last very long. The goal must always be to please women, not to serve your fetishes. Serving women must be at the forefront of your mind at all times. Remember, through this project of creating gynarchy, we are healing women and showing them that the masculine is not only safe, but that men can adore them as they are and care about their desires. Recently, the question went around social media asking women if they were alone in the woods, would they rather encounter a bear or a strange man? Unsurprisingly, most women chose bear. Imagine, however, being the kind of man a woman would be delighted to meet alone in the woods. Can you make that your mission in life? If so, I need you with me on this journey. Your first step is to read The Pillars of Gynarchy. If you find yourself in agreement with my philosophy, and you think we can work toward this goal together, then make yourself known. Use the contact information in the back of the book to reach out. The sooner the better. We must build the hive and begin the journey of living out gynarchy for real, for ourselves, and for others who will benefit from it in the future.
Bow down low, hush, don't you make a sound. In her gaze, where the lost are found, painting hopes with a love that's crowned. Queen of hearts, in her world renowned. Lead us forth to surrender. Submit, sacrifice, serve and survive. Lead us forth to surrender. Submit, sacrifice, serve and survive. Lead us forth to surrender. Submit, sacrifice, serve and